Hi, welcome back to our Culture Hacker video series. My name is Shane Green. I'm author of the book Culture Hacker, which is a guide for managers, owners, and executives of how to improve company culture. Today, I want to talk to you about coaching, or more specifically, how to give great feedback. Now, feedback by definition is very important because it really is the process by which you give information back to a person about a performance, activity, action, or something that they've recently done. And you see, this is critical for your company because that's not only how people get better, but how your company gets better as well. Now, when it comes to feedback, they generally come in two ways. Informal feedback and formal feedback. Now, informal feedback is those everyday casual conversations you have with your staff about what they did well or maybe what they could do better. Formal feedback tends to be more organized, tends to be documented, and is often seen in the performance appraisal process, maybe the recognition system, and your disciplinary process. And what I want to make sure you understand is that managers, for you to have effective formal feedback mechanisms, your informal feedback, those casual conversations must be happening. And you see, when I'm out there in organizations, I see this not happening, and as a result, many of your formal mechanisms lack credibility and lack meaning. So while I'm going to talk about the formal mechanisms in future videos, today let's focus on what effective informal feedback looks like. So the key elements for me are this. First of all, informal feedback must be timely, which means the feedback must be given right after the activity, behavior just occurred. Now, John LeClaire, the spy novelist, once said, the desk is a dangerous place from which to view the world. What does that mean? Managers, get out of your office. You can't be giving feedback from your desk, just hearing things that happen or getting feedback secondhand and giving that feedback many, many days later. It must be given in the moment. The second element I look for is that it's got to be fair. Managers, don't give feedback to your employees about how they can get better when maybe we haven't given them the right training, given them the right tools, given them the right information, and maybe even set them up for success with enough staffing. So we've got to be fair before we start opening our mouths and giving corrective feedback. The next thing I look for is be consistent. What does that mean? It means you've got to be giving feedback all the time, not just when you feel like it. And I know that can be hard. The next thing I look for is to make sure it's balanced. Many times when I talk to employees, they say the only time they ever get feedback is, of course, when they do things wrong. We've got to get out of our offices and start seeing our employees doing things right and telling them about it in the moment. The next element I think about is, remember, ask questions. Managers need to stop giving so many lectures. By asking your employees questions, you stimulate their brain. You put the responsibility of the lesson on them. Why is that important? Well, I can tell you now that as a manager, if all you do is lecture all day long, your employees will eventually block you out. And if they block you out, remember what Charlie Brown's teacher sounded like? Wah, 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 wah. So stop lecturing and ask questions. Now, some of the favorite questions that I like to ask is, did you realize that you did this? What impact does that have on the customer? And how can you improve? Remember, put the responsibility of the lesson on the employee. Now, also remember that when you're giving informal feedback, always start with the reason why and always finish with a thank you. So if I was listening to some informal feedback, it might sound a little like this. First thing we say, hey John, you remember that we've been talking a lot about service lately and the importance of delivering great service to all of our customers. Do you remember us talking about that yesterday? That's the first thing. Give them the reason why. The second thing, tell them what you observed. And once you ask what they observed, it might be, hey John, we were talking about service and I just overheard that interaction on the phone with a guest. And I can tell you that by your tone of voice and even the expression on the face, it didn't sound very friendly. Did you realize you did this? So that's the second part of this. Third now, ask them the impact on the customer. So John, let me ask you, if you were that customer and maybe you were talking with someone on the phone and weren't getting a very friendly tone or it seemed like a friendly conversation, how would that make you feel? So the fourth part, then ask them, so let me ask you, what could we do better? What have you learned that you know you could do a lot better in the future? Get the employee to tell you what they know and what they're going to do better. And then of course, remember finally, always say thank you. Listen, John, thanks so much for supporting our goals. This whole idea of customer service is so important to us, and I'm so glad you're a part of this. So that's what informal feedback would sound like. And I can tell you, but by establishing and ensuring these casual conversations are happening every day, not only will you improve your employee performance, but most importantly, you're going to improve your business performance because those formalized mechanisms are going to be much more meaningful and much more credible. So good luck out there. Listen, thanks again for checking in. Please connect with me on shanegreen.com, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.